So now the issue is, how do you scale this up? Say our cook stoves. You can talk about gas stoves, you can talk about solar stoves. No matter what you talk about, the issue is the cost. It costs about $70 a month. Okay? So that's about $2 a day. That's about 40 days of their paycheck. By the time you add the fan and the solar, will any one of us buy a cook stove if it costs 40%, 40 days of our paycheck? The answer is no. So how do you make this? So economies of scale we tried, we can bring it down to $50. We have looked into this, okay? So now what we are starting is, can we hook them up with carbon market? Because of the connection of cooking with carbon dioxide, because you're deforesting, right? Plus black carbon. Remember, hopefully you have learned, the leverage with short-lived climate pollutants is huge. Removing a ton of black carbon, say for diesel combustion, on a 100-year time scale is equal to removing 3,000 tons of carbon dioxide. That's why you get this quick relief. So we are starting a project called Carbon Credit Pilot Project, C2P2, where we are distributing both cook stoves and solar lamps, okay? And the question is monitoring. You remember, that's a huge issue in any mitigation, even in adaptation. How do you know people are doing what they claim they're doing? So again, my daughter who did the cell phone soot monitor developed a cheap 50-cent temperature sensor, and that transmits the data to the phone, okay? See, Bluetooth is easy, but it's very expensive. So just a wire hooks into the hearing phone jack of the phone and transmit the data. And so we know who are using what, okay? So the key thing which has stumbled all these cook stove guys, they never had a shop to go fix the stove. Would you buy a car if you can't take it somewhere to fix it, right? So we took care of that problem. This is the Energy Resource Institute. When we were there, we opened one of many. Here it is. To the eager listeners, I'm explaining the virtues of short-lived climate pollutants. I'm just half joking. So we now have shops over 80 locations in Uttar Pradesh. Okay? And this was just done 2 weeks ago. We have lined up with one of the biggest rural banks. See, that's the chairman of the, he's going to visit us in San Diego sometime soon. He's my hero. He believes in short-lived climate pollutants. He has given 100,000 ATM cards to villagers. This is based on government loan, but it's mainly for working on the farm, fertilizers, farm equipment. So the money they would have spent on that, they were spending their money. They will use that to buy the stoves, okay? So the loan is 9%. And we have also created village oversight committees so that big money cash transaction is all, you have to be careful. So you'll all be proud to know, as part of the San Diego synthesis, which Professor Charlie Kennel talked about climate mitigation, adaptation, short-term, long-term, we have created a climate mitigation fund at UCSD, okay? So there's a woman here. She joins a self-help group, okay, through help of an NGO. Then she applies to this financial institution for loan, right? And we have set up energy enterprises. Surya has set up a protocol with manufacturers. What would pass, right? So the woman gets a loan from the self-help group, and she immediately registers and purchases Surya. Then Nitya hooks them up with cell phone sensors, and the data comes to UCSD. And Terry and Nextleaf, we are working up detailed algorithms to convert hours of cooking and fuel use to carbon credits, both carbon dioxide and SLCPs. Okay? And we have hooked up with a major carbon verification market. So they're going to look at a protocol, right? And we can all be proud here that at UCSD, there are no protocols for the short-lived climate pollutants. They're coming to us to develop that protocol, okay? And I am pleased to say, I'm basically calling it charismatic climate credits, C-cubed, okay? Professor David Victor from IRPS has joined our team. He's going to figure out how, if we do this process properly, how do we connect to the voluntary carbon market? 4 minutes, yeah. So if this process succeeds, I should rather say when it succeeds, we have 6 months, every woman, remember the 3 billion divided by 5 for each household, there are 650 million women will be connected directly to the voluntary carbon market. So they get the credit. What is revolutionary about this? All our carbon markets credits goes not to individuals, to corporations. So when you buy a Prius car, if you get the credit for it, we used to, there will be more people changing to these new technologies. Anyway, so that's the bottom line here. And I wanted to go back to the sustainable energy for all. Remember I said, if you cut CO2, if you cut SLCPs, this UN agency has come up with what would it take for the next 20 years. It's very interesting that energy saving alone, they claim, would give us 40% from fossil fuel, okay? And then the new renewables, solar, wood, and hydro, okay? Will pick up, and slowly we pinch off the CO2 part. And the money it would cost to solve the problem for the 3 billion energy access is $50 billion per year. So to entrepreneurs, there is a big opportunity here. You solve the people's problem, solve the poverty issue, you address the climate issue, and you address the energy access issue. So let's this not be forgotten. What's at stake here? Basically 3 billion who have no access to fossil fuels. This is the group we have a chance to guide them towards sustainable pathway. Otherwise, they would join us to the fossil addicted group. So for our own self-interest, this is a solvable problem, okay? Thank you.